Hello there, this is Audriana McLean with Fulfilling Strategy, where we believe strategy is not just a planning document, it's a process of daily discipline. So I'm really excited today to bring you the information from my latest epic blog post. The blog post is called, If Sales Growth is Your Priority, This Process Needs Your Attention Stat. Yep, so it's a little bit dramatic, but that's because I think it's really important. So let's get started. So, of course, I know you want to increase your value to your customers and grow your business, right? So I'm going to share with you an excellent way to use business model capability analysis to identify the most crucial process you can improve to increase your customers, to increase your value to your customers, and ultimately that drives your business growth. Now, I'm just going to say there's a lot of information in this post. I've also included some really good guides and links to other posts. So I'm going to include a link to this actual blog post in the notes. But I encourage you to go check that out because there's a lot of resources there that you can use to help you immediately go deploy this idea of how to find opportunities to grow your sales through improving a process. So processes, we know, are essential to business success for two reasons. First, they ensure quality, and secondly, they help you scale. But processes can break down and become ineffective over time. And sometimes this breakdown is really obvious, but other times it's insidious, quietly limiting your organization and your results. So this process that I'm going to share with you today is going to address some of those processes you might realize need to be improved. So, with limited resources and capacity, you can't fix all the broken processes that could be optimized, right? So how can you identify the ones that deserve your attention? So here's my step-by-step process for using business model capability analysis to focus your improvement efforts on the process that's going to drive the most value to your customers and increase your sales. So first, let's talk about capabilities, right? There's two types of capabilities. Most teams perform an organizational capabilities analysis as part of the strategic planning process. But I include another analysis when working with my clients, and that's business model capabilities. So let's talk about these two types of capabilities, organizational capabilities and business model capabilities. So the first, let's talk about organizational capabilities. So those are the capabilities your business must have to fulfill its purpose and mission. So these capabilities are not dependent on the business model. So let me give you an example. Oh, by the way, this is a section 2 in the blog post where I have a download that you're going to want to download because it's really good, to my capabilities assessment template. Really good stuff there. We got graphs, got spider charts, good stuff. Anyway, so one example of an organizational capability would be, let's say, talent acquisition, right? And the desired state of the talent acquisition might be something like, we are good at attracting, motivating, developing, and retaining qualified people. So that's a capability you want to have, right? Another organizational capability that I like to use with my clients is agility. And that desired state would be, we are good at adapting, making decisions quickly, and succeeding in rapidly changing, ambiguous, or turbulent environments, right? And so both of those capabilities, they're universal. You want to do that regardless of what business you're in. You want to do that regardless of what your business model is. So those are what organizational capabilities are. Now, the second type of capability is business model capabilities. And those are the ones that you must master to optimize results based on your business model, right? For delivering value to your customers, employees, and all other shareholders. So a company can have more than one business model to serve different customer segments. So, for instance, one company could have an online business model and also a retail business model. So if that's the case, then you're going to want to analyze the capabilities needed for each business model. But here are a few examples of business model capabilities using a B2B e-commerce business as an example. So for a B2B e-commerce business, supply chain, right, would be a really important business model capability. And the desired state for that supply chain capability might look something like, we've developed the right supplier network to secure the best products at competitive prices and ensure availability to meet our customers' needs. For an e-commerce business, another a business model capability might be customer experience management, right? And that would look like we invest in the platforms and technologies required to provide the industry's best consumer experience. So those are just examples of what a business model capability would be. So, of course, improving both organizational and business model capabilities is necessary. But if you're looking to find the source, okay, of the best opportunity to increase your value to your customers and grow your business, start with business model capabilities. They are closest to the customer experience, and that's where the opportunity is going to be. All right, so first, what you have to do is define your business model capabilities, right? And maybe you've already done this, but if you haven't, or even if you have, I use Strategizer's business model canvas, okay, for many purposes, right, and working with my clients. But it's one of my go-to tools for assessing business model capabilities. And I've got a link in the notes to this canvas. And what I love about this framework, it's really just, it's your business model on a page, right? It captures the essential elements that you have to do well to deliver your value proposition. And, the thing that I think is really important is a lot of times we think our businesses are so complex, right? But if you can't take your business model and break it down into these elements on this business model map, then you, first of all, you probably just don't understand your business, right? Because there's only a few things that are essential. And since you don't have the business model map in front of you, I'll give you an example. It's got like 7 different segments. One is customer relationships, right? What kind of customer relationships do you have to maintain? Value proposition. What is your value proposition to your customer, right? And what capabilities do you have to deliver that value proposition? Another one, key activities, key resources, key partners. So if you go through this business model mapping and just fill it out. So step 1 is to populate it, right? And I recommend that you do this as a leadership team, or at least get cross-functional feedback as you complete the model, to make sure you've captured the right components. Oh, and as a side note, this is something that I think every organization should do and share with employees, right? Especially new employees when you're onboarding them, because it's a way to just at a glance understand what is essential to running your business. So once you populate the canvas, right, all the things that you need to do, you get your business model on a page. The second thing that you want to do is you want to highlight those things that are most critical to your customer. So, when you look at your business model and all the different things, the capabilities you have to have, what are the ones that are most critical to delivering your value proposition to your customers? So many items are going to be important, right? But only a few are essential. So really focus on what is most essential here. So then, whatever's most essential, those are the priority capabilities that you're going to want to assess in order to find how you can create more value to your customer. All right, so how do you assess these critical business model capabilities? All right, well, you're going to do 2 things. All right, the first is you're going to get an internal assessment, and then you're going to get a customer assessment. So let's start with internal assessment. So again, you're going to identify your capabilities, and then it's really important that you don't just say we need to be good at supply chain. You need to describe the desired state. What does it look like when we are excelling in supply chain delivery the way we want to? It's really important to describe what that looks like in terms of excellence for your business. So identify the desired state for each capability, and then evaluate on a scale of 1 to 5. I say 1 to 5 because that's in the guide that I use, and it's a really great guide, so you should download that. But anyway, evaluate on a scale of 1 to 5 against the desired state. And again, this is an exercise I recommend doing as a leadership team, or at least with a cross-functional group, to get a complete picture, okay? Now, you're going to want to do this internal assessment, but then you're also going to want to do a customer assessment. It's really important to test your internal evaluation of your capabilities against the perspective that matters most, your customer's assessment, right? So survey your customers to understand how they think you're doing regarding these capabilities versus the competition. And it's really important to ask them versus the competition, because what I found is if you ask your customers to assess how well you're doing performing against certain attributes, they'll give you 1 score, right? But then if you ask them how you're doing compared to your competition, it tends to be a more, a more objective view. And when they're comparing you against the competition, it tends to be a little bit lower. And I think that's just really important, because then they're looking at you. Well, yeah, in the first question, how are we doing? They're like, yeah, you're doing pretty good. But then when you ask, well, how are we doing against competitor X? That right there gives them a point of comparison, and whatever assessment they make in that situation, to me, is more accurate and reflective of really how you're doing. So in addition to asking them how, you're doing against competition, also ask them to evaluate how important they view this capability, right? Because you've identified it as critical to the customer, but how do they view it, right? What if they don't think it's that important? That's good to know, because that's not where you want to spend your time. So this is an opportunity to do two things: assess how well they think you're doing against capabilities and how important these capabilities are to them, okay? So then you're going to want to compare your results, right? And see where the discrepancies are. And this feedback is a really good opportunity to align with what matters most to your customers and to see how they view you compared to the competition. So as a result of this particular analysis, you may find several areas that you want to improve, okay? But expanding your focus will also dilute the impact. Organizations rarely can take on a lot of process improvement anyway. So I recommend just focusing on one capability and process at a time. So from the analysis that was performed internal and from your customers, determine which priority capability to select. And then once you've determined that, we'll determine which process has the most impact on that capability. All right, so first just determine the capability, right? Look at the capabilities that your customers identified as most important. And of those, which ones did your customers indicate are not strengths for your organization? Which one was not an overwhelming advantage? Hands down, these are the priority areas you need to address immediately, right? Because if it's essential to your customer and it's not a competitive strength for you, you need to drop everything and address the problem. That right there needs to get all of your focus. Okay, so let's say, for example, that you determined the capability that you need to improve is product development, okay? Your product development. Well, typically, there are several processes that make up a capability, right? So the capability of product development, like delivering the best products at the best price with the best value, however you're defining that capability, it's going to be several processes that are required to deliver that capability. So what you're going to want to do is identify all the processes that make up that capability, and then with a cross-functional team, kind of, go through and prioritize and identify the process that's causing the biggest challenge. That's not usually too difficult to do. Like if you know that this is a capability, say product development, that you need to improve, identify all the processes that go into delivering that product development. And then, which process within that is broken is usually not too hard to figure out. And here's a pro tip. So when you're dealing with process level improvements, it's best to involve middle level management and their direct reports. So they are closest to the process and have the best understanding of what's really happening. So in other words, this isn't an executive or leadership team exercise, okay, if you want to get the best results. So from that, you will have identified the capability you need to improve, and then within that capability, you will have prioritized the process that you need to improve. So we've gotten a lot more granular, right? So once you've identified the process you want to improve, just do your root cause analysis and it'll show you where the problem is so that the team can focus on solutions. So I'm going to refer you to my blog post I did about a month ago called Up-Level a Core Process. And in that post, there's a complete guide on process improvement, okay? And I also have links to root cause analysis tools that you can use to guide your team through that I think you'll find really helpful. So that's basically the whole process, right? You take your business model capabilities, you assess them for what is most critical to the customer, and then those that are most critical to the customer, you analyze those from an internal perspective and a customer perspective. And then whatever your customer determined was most important to them, and you have the biggest gap, That's a capability you need to focus on. You take that capability, you say, well, what are all the processes that are required within this capability? And you pick the process within that capability that is causing the biggest challenge. And then you just do your typical process improvement. Okay. So with limited resources and increasing demands on your business, process improvement can seem really overwhelming, right? But if your focus is growth and increasing value to the customer, following this method of utilizing business model capability analysis will deliver high impact results. So by focusing on your business model elements that are essential to creating customer value and understanding how your customers assess your performance, this method will also uncover process improvement opportunities you didn't know exist, which is a bonus. All right, well, that's all I've got for you today. If you'd like for me to guide your team through this process or any other areas of strategic planning, I'd love to work with you. So just please contact me for an exploratory call. And if you know someone who would appreciate this guidance on process improvement that drives growth, please share this information. And until next time, be safe and work well.